Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock!" And Set It Off by Boosie Badass played. As a young white man, it was my first time hearing that song, Set It Off. Yeah, we finna set it off. You heard me? I'm finna put you in the trash bag. Tired of all these knowing me right now, for real. You wanna talk shit? You wanna run your mouth? You want some gangsters strut your motherfucking house? We'll set this job. Yeah. And that was my first time hearing Set It Off. At Samford University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator. Afternoon to everybody tuning in. What's going on? Yes. We're back. Another Monday, another week here on the show. Got my hair popping out of the damn headset, boy. It's a marvelous Monday. Merciless Monday. What can I say, guys? What can I really say? We're coming up on the end tonight of probably the best weekend of football that we've seen in recent memory for sure. Started it off with the Rams, Panthers. Great game between division foes, Green Bay and Chicago on Saturday night. All three games, really, on Sunday were competitive. Pretty much every single wild card game was competitive, other than the game last night between New England and the Chargers. And the score might tell you a different picture than what really went down between the Chargers and the Patriots. Texans go on the road to Pittsburgh tonight. That'll round out the weekend. And listen, man, just like every other game in this wild card weekend, I think tonight's game between Houston and Pittsburgh is a complete toss-up. Mike Tomlin is notorious for getting the Steelers right on a long week on Monday night games. It's in Pittsburgh. And TJ Watt said the other day that he has not heard Acrisure Stadium as loud as it was last week against Baltimore as long as he's been there. So will they be playing Renegade? Will the Boo Birds come out if Pittsburgh's offense can't create explosive plays like we've seen them struggle with all year? Houston's defense is arguably the most suffocating defense in the NFL. There's people saying that Houston could go all the way in this thing. And to be honest, I wouldn't be a damn bit surprised if Houston went all the way. I still think back to that Sunday night game a couple weeks ago in Kansas City, where one of the greatest quarterbacks of my generation, Mahomes, was completely befuddled, completely bamboozled in the cold at home against this Houston Texans defense. And who other than DeMeco Ryans would you guess would be coaching this group of Houston Texans? They've ripped off 10 in a row. And really, if you held a gun to my head, I shouldn't say that because we're on YouTube, but if you pushed me on it and told me to pick a side, I'm probably going to take Houston. but I believe DK Metcalf will be back for Pittsburgh tonight. He's really the secret sauce in terms of Pittsburgh's offense being able to create explosive plays. When he's not there, you can see a glaring difference with Pittsburgh's offense because, let's face it, the story of Pittsburgh's season all year has been a defense that hasn't played up to expectations based on the money they've been paid, and an offense that can't create explosive plays without guys like DK Metcalf. Even with DK Metcalf, the Steelers seem to struggle to create explosive plays. Nonetheless, they find a way to win. And this is why coaching is so important. I cannot stress enough how important coaching was in that San Francisco-Philadelphia game we saw in the middle of the day. Shanahan versus Sirianni. I don't think you could have two teams, I'm talking the Niners and the Eagles, that are literal polar opposites. What do I mean by that? Well, San Francisco has 6 of their highest paid players. They've missed. So I brought that to the table in a bad way. This is the fact of the matter with San Francisco. This will give you a little bit of context as to why I think Kyle Shanahan should be coach of the year. 6 of San Francisco's highest paid players have missed 60% of snaps for the 49ers this season. On the other side of that, you see Philly. You see an offense, a roster that's really beautifully built in Philadelphia. A beautifully built roster. We've talked about this on the show time and time again. The different phases of constructing a contentious football team in the NFL. There's roster building, there's coaching, and then the players obviously got to execute in critical moments. So for Philadelphia, they've done a magnificent job of drafting well. They've done a magnificent job of bringing on key free agents, being aggressive in free agency, paying guys. And then you see that their offense leads the NFL in 3 and outs. That's a real statistic. The Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts, with A.J. Brown, with Saquon Barkley, probably pound for pound the best back in the league right now. Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and much more. You got guys like Calcaterra in there blocking tight ends that are specimens that do a great job. And yet the Eagles led the league in pro football this year in 3 and outs. 40% of their drives last night were 3 and out. I think it's just a testament to the job that Kyle Shanahan's done. But you think about a couple weeks ago, the San Francisco 49ers traveled to Indianapolis to face 44-year-old Phillip Rivers. And 44-year-old Phillip Rivers had 5 years. Listen, before I say what I'm about to say, let's put this into context here. So San Francisco goes on the road a couple weeks ago to Indianapolis to play the Colts. 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, 5 years out of retirement, had more passing yards, more points, and was better on third down than Jalen Hurts and the Eagles were against San Francisco yesterday. That's a real stat. So the story of the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2026 wildcard round was a matter of coaching. If anybody comes to me, says online that coaching in the NFL isn't important, take a look at that game. Even with 2 interceptions, Brock Purdy made the throws he had to make. He had on that game-winning touchdown, he had a whole progression. And he ends up going to McCaffrey on the third and final read of the progression on a little pivot route. And the kid stayed composed. Listen, I've been a Brock Purdy denier for most of this show. The majority of my time covering football on this show the last year and a half, 2 years, I've said I don't think Brock Purdy's the real deal. I don't think Brock Purdy's got it. I don't think Brock Purdy's got the physical tools. Watching him yesterday, and I think we're coming into a chapter of the show and a chapter of life where we've got to just look at the facts. We've got to be objective, and we've got to step down from our hill on certain things and say we might have been wrong. I was wrong about Brock Purdy. I'll tell you why. Kid throws a terrible interception. Threw 2 interceptions, I believe, in the game against Philadelphia in the wild card round yesterday. The Brock Purdy that I've been talking about on this show for the last 2 years would have folded, wouldn't have made that third read on a progression late in the game where he had to come in clutch for his team. A bad quarterback wouldn't have done those things. But Brock Purdy came through and made plays when it mattered for San Francisco. And I give credit to the players for executing. Juwan Jennings now has as many touchdowns in the postseason as Justin Herbert does, by the way. A little stray there for you Chargers fans. It's coaching. And I wish I had Twitter pulled up because I heard a whole mess of things regarding a power plant being close to the San Francisco 49ers. Apparently, this story broke last week, and I somehow missed it from 5 days ago. But we wonder why the San Francisco 49ers have had teams that are perennially injured. We wonder if it's the training staff. We wonder if it's the coaches that send these guys out too early. We wonder if they're eating the right stuff or getting in the cold plunge in the morning. And I just find out that the San Francisco 49ers have a literal power plant with electromagnetic frequencies radiating out of it right next to their stadium and their facility. So at some point this week, what we'll do is we'll get on Twitter. A guy posted a whole thread about it that seems like an expert on electromagnetic radiation. At some point this week on the show, we'll pull that guy's thread up and we'll read the details of that. It's too over my head to try and recount it mentally off the top of my head, but something to think about why, in terms of why the 49ers might be injured all the time. But nonetheless, you had Duke Tobin, who's the de facto GM of the Cincinnati Bengals, do a press conference on Friday. I was very happy with the fact that the organization pushed the guy that's been accountable for the Bengals' underperformance to the spotlight. They normally, last year, they didn't make him speak to the media. I'm talking about Duke Tobin, the de facto GM of the Bengals. Last year, people forget, listen, the Bengals' 2024 season was just as disappointing as the 2025 edition of the Bengals. Joe Burrow had 4,000 passing yards. He had more than 40 touchdown passes. Jamar Chase won the Triple Crown. Trey Hendrickson led the league in sacks. You want to talk about a disappointing team? Look at the 2024 Cincinnati Bengals. And I was so pissed as a fan after last season. And we didn't. And I knew at that point that Duke Tobin, the de facto general manager for the Cincinnati Bengals, was accountable for that. And we didn't see his ass until the combine. This year, at least, after another disappointing season, the Bengals had a press conference for Duke Tobin this past Friday. I listened to half of it. I got to listen to the second half of it. But you hear Duke Tobin with the Bengals talking about this season. And one thing I know he's lamented in the press conference was that we didn't have Joe. Everything we built was around Joe Burrow. And he gave Joe Flacco his flowers. He gave Joe Flacco his whole puff piece. And Joe Flacco deserved it. He stepped in and produced despite many external factors going against him. Joe Flacco, consummate pro, completely agree with Duke Tobin on that. Talked about complimentary football and how when Joe Flacco and the offense produced, the defense let us down, and that every phase of the game was complicit in the Bengals 2025 season. Now, why am I talking about this? The reason I'm talking about this is the main narrative for the Bengals on why this season didn't go the way that it should have gone was that Joe Burrow was out. And my question, if I was a reporter talking to Duke Tobin on Friday, we obviously didn't know that the 49ers would put up a performance like they did in the wild card round on Friday. But if I were a reporter speaking to Duke Tobin, the de facto general manager of the Cincinnati Bengals today, I would ask him a big narrative for you guys, the Bengals, on why this 2025 season didn't go the way that you wanted it to go was Joe Burrow being out. Have you seen the 49ers this season? Have you seen how they managed 12 wins, 13 now with a gutsy wild card win on the road in Philly with your 6 highest paid players not playing for 60% of the reps this year? I wonder if the Bengals are following the 49ers story right now. I'm sure they are. And I'm sure they got their foot in their mouth, spinning that narrative that we didn't have the season we wanted because of one player, when the 49ers' 6 highest paid players missed 60% of the reps. I wonder if the Bengals are following that. It's a polar opposite in terms of how you run an organization, who you're filling in for the injured guys, making sure that those guys are vetted. And I'm sure the Bengals vet guys. It's their life. It's their job. But, I mean, golly, man. I mean, put it back on a positive note. Testament to the damn 49ers coaching staff making do with what they've got. They played 2 linebackers the majority of the night last night and the majority of the stretch of their season that weren't even in the building a month or 2 ago. And these guys came out and performed at a very high level. So those are my thoughts on the 49ers-Eagles game. Obviously, I don't think L.A. is looking too good. 2 of the last 4 or 5 weeks, they go into Carolina, a clearly inferior Carolina team, and underperform. Stafford, I don't know. He could go for 600 yards against Chicago's secondary next week. Chicago's secondary is beat up, and we'll talk about the Bears and Packers here in a little bit. But just previewing the divisional weekend, you got the Rams hitting the road to play the Chicago Bears in the divisional round. Who would have thought we'd be saying that at the beginning of the year? And let's dive on into the Chicago Bears. Look, we know that Ben Johnson has done an incredible job in turning this thing around very quick. Again, we have the Bengals coming to the table with all the reasons why the 2025 season didn't work out, why we got to be patient, why we can't have such a turnover with the coaching staff. And then we see organizations like the 49ers making it work with what they've got. We see plenty of organizations, whether it's the Jags, they lost yesterday, the Bears, or any other team like that that's in it, the Patriots. We see 1-year turnarounds with them. And so I don't really think that if we look at the facts of the situation, that patience is the biggest virtue in pro football, ironically, because you can turn it around in 1 year. Now, with Chicago, again, Caleb Williams, the narrative on the show has been largely, don't paint your fingernails, and he's too gay to be a quarterback in the NFL. But Caleb Williams, I mean, say what you want about the guy. First 3 quarters against the Packers, absolutely terrible. It looked like the Bears were completely buried. And then all of a sudden, you see Caleb Williams making throws. where it's almost like Steph Curry shooting from 34 feet. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable what this kid can do. His ability to be present, to feel it, to have eyes in the back of his head, and just get in flow state that really I don't think I've seen a guy in the NFL make throws like Caleb Williams made in the fourth quarter against the Packers for a long, long time. A long, long time. We're talking about rolling left, throwing off your back foot across your body to the opposite side of the field and completing it 25, 30 yards downfield to Rome Odunze. Listen, you got a great staff of receivers in Chicago. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Luther Burden's really become, I think, Chicago's number one weapon in a lot of ways. The young rookie, you get a screen pass out to Luther Burden out in space, and he's going to look bottled up there at the line and figure out how to get 8, get 10, hell, 15. We debriefed that stat on the show a couple of weeks ago where every single route that Luther Burden runs, I don't know what the current figure is, but I know a couple of weeks ago, every single route that Luther Burden ran for the Chicago Bears turned into an average of 3 yards per route. So even when he's not getting thrown to, statistically, he'll create 3 yards every single route he runs. He's an unbelievable player and a type of rookie that I'm waiting for Cincinnati to draft. I'm waiting for Cincinnati to draft a player like Luther Burden. Not that the Bengals need receivers, but in other areas, rookies that contribute right away. And I think that's a major, major trend in pro football. When you look at teams playing well into January, a common trend is that they all have rookies making meaningful contribution. Colston Loveland, the tight end for the Bears. People in Chicago are saying he's going to be an absolute superstar. Luther Burden, again, for the Bears. And I can't think of rookies on any other teams, but I guarantee you they got them. I guarantee you. Off the top of my head, I can't name any, but I guarantee you. Common trend in teams that play well into January in the NFL is that they have rookies making meaningful contributions, and that means they drafted well. That means they drafted guys that are ready. But that's not the whole puzzle. It's exactly why I think Kyle Shanahan deserves to win Coach of the Year. Is that the best, Kyle Shanahan made his mark on that game yesterday in the wild card. The best coaches change outcomes in games. That's why the Bengals got 3 of the best offensive players in the game and still run plays like they got piss running down their leg. The best coaches change outcomes in games. And back to Caleb Williams. I mean, there's a lot of discussion on why or how the Bears have been able to make all these comebacks. 7 fourth quarter comebacks, I believe the Bears have now completed for wins. And I think most, if not all of those comebacks, they were trailing at some point within 2 minutes. The Bengals experienced it. What is it? And there's a story coming out that in training camp this year, Ben Johnson made a point, the head coach of the Bears made it a point to show the 28-3 Atlanta Falcons versus New England Patriots comeback in the Super Bowl. Ben Johnson made it a point to show this to his team this fall camp, basically trying to say to them that it doesn't matter. No game in this league is over until it's over. And I'm hearing that he had 2 players that played on each of those teams in that Super Bowl between the Falcons and the Patriots. One is Grady Jarrett, who was on the Falcons during that Super Bowl, and the other was Joe Thuney, the offensive lineman. He was with the Patriots during that Super Bowl. Man, I don't mean to be politically incorrect, but I mean, golly, think about how Grady Jarrett felt having to go up there and relive that Super Bowl, being on the Falcons, being on the losing side. He had to feel like a Holocaust survivor or something. You know? And then Joe Thuney's just coming up there. He played for the Patriots. He's coming up there chest out. Yeah, that's how I remember it. But the point is that Ben Johnson for the Bears has painted this picture to his team that you're never out. You're never done. Keep playing. And I don't think there's a better example of that than the, what was it, the 2016 Super Bowl between the New England Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons, when the Atlanta Falcons obviously jumped out 28-3, and we all know what happens after that. It's a hell of a tool, and these guys, these Chicago Bears late in the year, they're able to call back to that moment in fall camp where Grady Jarrett came up and told his experience about the Super Bowl on the Falcons. I can't imagine having to do that, man. And really, that might have been the more powerful testimony, was Grady Jarrett's testimony about how that Super Bowl went playing on the Falcons. I guarantee you that was a more powerful testimony. But I'm sure Joe Thuney, he had a really good one too, because he was on the team that was down 25 and figured out a way to make it back. And so, like, what is it with the Bears? I'm sure that story has something to do with it. I'm sure that Caleb Williams being a master at improv has something to do with it. It seems like the guy just plays better when he's playing schoolyard ball as opposed to schemed up ball. So Ben Johnson definitely has a hand in this from a motivation perspective. And you're seeing this in football. You're seeing this is a major trend in football. Former players are getting coaching roles with no coaching experience. Why is that? Jason Witten just got hired on as the tight ends coach at the University of Oklahoma. Matt Ryan just got hired as like the director of football operations or something like that within the Atlanta Falcons. I'm seeing many more former player hirings. My former teammate at Samford University, Michael Pierce, who had a great career as a nose tackle for the Baltimore Ravens, just retired last year. He's getting hired on as the defensive line coach at my alma mater, Samford. Why is this shift happening? It's because organizations, college or pro, are now starting to understand that in this new era of the game, that it's more about locker room guys. It's more about Jimmys and Joes. It's more about hiring leaders of men. And the way you lead men in a tough sport like football is you have to have been there and done that. These kids these days in college and in the pros, I feel like they're not less apt to listen to you unless you've been there before and done that. And so I think that's the trend you're seeing in football right now with a lot of former players getting coaching roles in places with no former coaching experience. People in the college game and in the pro game want leaders of men. And I think Ben Johnson, as much of a football genius as he is also a leader of men. I don't think you'd hear stories like what we're hearing about them bringing back memories of this 28-3 Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl. I don't think somebody who's not a good motivator wouldn't take the time to relay that message to his team, wouldn't put the thought into it to come up with a message so powerful. Like, hey, you guys are never out of this. You guys, if you guys have grit and you play hard and you do your job and you play for the guy next to you every snap, you're never out of it. It's a lesson that I don't think is very easily taught to the men in the new era of this game. So that's how I think Ben Johnson has a hand in this for the Bears. But, I mean, what can you say about Caleb Williams? Caleb Williams, look, I'll tell you guys a story. I used to watch Kentucky basketball a heck of a lot. And I remember there was a good player for Kentucky by the name of Malik Monk. And Malik Monk, yeah, a lot of you guys that know ball know who Malik Monk is. But especially when he was at Kentucky, Malik Monk would just pull up from half court all the time with someone in his face. He'd just pull up And as a Kentucky basketball fan, you're watching him getting ready to pull this shot, and you're like, stop! No! Don't shoot that! Oh. And it goes in. and it's, dude, I mean, Colin Cowherd said it this way earlier on his show today. You know, if you got a kid and he puts his pants on backwards at 12, but he's passing computer calculus at 13, like, what do you want me to do? He's getting it done where he needs to get it done. And that's Caleb Williams for me. Caleb Williams reminds me of Steph Curry pulling up from 34 feet, or Malik Monk while he was at Kentucky pulling up from half court with someone in his face. And they end up making it. And you're like, what? I can't say anything. Like, the lead up to it is just horrific. You know, but then he ends up coming down, a receiver ends up coming down with it. The throw ends up in the right place. I mean, so I feel like Caleb Williams is just kind of making his own rules out there. And it took a figure like Ben Johnson to come in there and let him be him and let all that come up out of him. I don't know how Caleb Williams' career would have gone if the Bears had stood pat and kind of had the same attitude as the Bengals do. I can't imagine. I'd guess that in a different world, Caleb Williams' career is not anywhere close to what it already is if the Bears don't make that change and bring in Ben Johnson among a couple others. Yeah, so it's a seventh fourth quarter comeback for the Bears on the season. Most of those wins, if not all of them, they were trailing at some point inside of 2 minutes. They outscored the Packers in the fourth quarter 25-6. 25-6. And you look at the Buffalo Bills against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Josh Allen literally putting the team on his back, that quarterback sneak, where he ended up going, the tush push, where he ended up going for like 10 or 15. I mean, I think this is where guys like Caleb Williams, guys like Josh Allen thrive, is off schedule. And I think these guys are also momentum players. They got to get a little something behind them. But when they do, they're in flow, they're present, they're keenly aware of everything that's going on, and they're not even thinking about it. They're just playing ball. And from a scouting perspective, from a drafting perspective, I don't really know how you clock that as an NFL executive trying to put a team together, because that seems like that's where the game is going. You got Caleb Williams and Josh Allen still standing in the postseason, and these are quarterbacks that are largely the most productive off script. How do you clock that? I guess just watch the film. What else do we got? We're running low on time. We might have to check out here soon, but because I got to go to jiu-jitsu. Fans of the show understand that. They've heard that many times before. I'm trying to think. I know there's bases we haven't covered, but we've got all week to do that. As always, you guys here in the chat watching, holler at me here in the chat for now. Anything that maybe we miss on the show, I would love to hear from you guys. Obviously, comment on the video if you're rewatching this back. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, around 6 Eastern, live here on YouTube. You can get your episodes on all audio platforms as well. That's updated daily. Make sure that you subscribe if you're new in here. We're the fastest growing football channel in the land. College, SEC, pro ball. We spent most of the day talking about pro ball. I didn't even get to some of the things that I wanted to cover with college today. Obviously, we covered all the college games from this weekend, the semifinal games on Friday, the Indiana-Oregon game, not even worth recounting. Oregon completely embarrassing. I think their quarterback, Dante Moore, has some hard questions to ask himself about whether he's ready for the draft or not. I think his draft stock took a big hit on Friday, and I think Dante Moore, who in a sorry quarterback draft class this year was the second guy on the totem pole behind Fernando, might want to reconsider entering the draft based on how much I would assume his stock took a hit in the Peach Bowl on Friday night. It's a historically weak quarterback draft class. I would hate to be an NFL organization right now in need of a quarterback. I gripe about a lot of things as a Bengals fan, but quarterback is not one of them. So I would not want to be an NFL team that needs a quarterback right now. Yeah, we'll continue to unpack all this stuff throughout the week. We're here every day, Monday through Friday. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Subscribe to the channel to support us as we continue forward trying to improve this program day in and day out. I want to be able to hire a production team, man, but in order to do that, we got to get some income off this show. And in order to get some income off this show, you got to subscribe. It's free. You don't get any emails, nothing like that. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to cut it today. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff unfolding in football right now, so this is the show you want to be subscribed to this time of the year. After football's over, we'll figure it out, but we'll still be here. Won't ever stop being here. So it's a perfect time to hit that subscribe button, guys. And everybody who does, love you, appreciate you. Even if you don't, still love you, and I hope you enjoyed the program today. As always, this is In the Jar Football Show, and my name is Clark Dupree. Holler at you, boy.